So that didn't stop me. And so I thought, well, why do we even want to get on television? Well, if you're someone like me who's a speaker, you love to have that footage in your sizzle reel. But even if you're not a speaker or an author, because there's a lot of people that write a book, and then fewer people who write a book get on television. So it gives you some social credibility, some social proof. But there's businesses that aren't authors or speakers that want to get on television, and so I thought it would be useful if I could explain to you how to do it, and then what to say once you're on television so that the segment goes well. Now, from Mark Goldston, I met Cal Fussman, who co-hosts a show here with Larry King called Breakfast with Larry. Larry's done over 60,000 interviews in his career. And I thought to myself, well, I better prepare for this interview. And that's what you have to do for every segment you're going to do on. You need to watch a few of the segments, get a sense of the personality, because the viewers are watching people on TV with this little bit of skepticism. You have to have that rub-off effect from the host. Oh, we know Larry King, we like Larry King. If Larry King likes you, then we'll like and listen to you. So this is not your show, it's their show and you're a guest. So there's some mistakes that you want to make sure that you avoid. The first one is, don't go on TV with a shiny forehead. I did it. My sister's like, what the heck? If it's distracting. Most of the shows will not put any makeup on you. Only the anchors get it. So it's up to you to come in with not only makeup, but powder, I found out was the secret to not having a shiny forehead. So that's the first mistake to avoid. The second mistake is don't look at the camera. Look at the anchors or the hosts. It's their show, so they might talk to camera, and also when you're in a studio, they put a lot of the questions on a chyron and they're looking, but you stay focused on them the entire time. And then the other big mistake is don't be a talking head. It's called television for a reason. So come up with some concepts and some visuals that you can put into your segment. The producers are so busy. If I just said, hey, I've got a book called Better Selling Through Storytelling, do you want to have me on? They'd be like, I don't think so. You need to think like a producer and create the segment for them so they don't have to spend a lot of time in trying to figure out what would this segment look like, what's the takeaway for people. So speaking in sound bites is really a big part of this. So if you can see, I was in Chicago visiting my mom and I got on WGN, which is, a kick for me because I grew up watching Bozo Circus on that. And the pitch here was, I was going home for Thanksgiving, and the pitch here was, don't go cold turkey into your family Thanksgiving. What? Oh, what's that going to look like? I said, well, everyone gets asked those questions. Did you gain weight? Why aren't you married yet? I said, sew those buttons up before you get in front of the table so people can't push them. Soundbite, soundbite, soundbite. So I got to do that. Now I also did some research on the co-hosts, the anchors. And I said, oh, we both went to the University of Illinois, different times, but at least, we're Illini. So that 10, 15 seconds before we go live, she's like, oh, that's cool, nice. So she's a little friendlier and that energy's up before the camera starts rolling live. And this was KTLA this Monday. Now, here's the other thing I really want to suggest, is be prepared so when you get those calls, that you are ready to go. I've been working with the publicist for the book for the past 3 months, and the concept was, what about a segment on how to go from invisible to irresistible? Because I think a lot of people would love that, and people feel invisible sometimes at a networking event, and there's a lot of similarities between your dating life and your career. And so we had the segment all ready to go, and she emailed me Friday afternoon. She goes, somebody just canceled Monday morning. Can you be there? And do you have the visuals, and do you have the questions and answers to send? Because I'd already worked on it. So that preparation when you get that last minute call, and I have no ego about being the understudy. So I'm happy to fill in at any moment. So that's what this looked like. So we're going to take a quick look.
Joining us now is John Livesay. He's a keynote speaker and best-selling author of the book, Better Selling with Storytelling, the Essential Roadmap to Becoming
So
a
pause my book
Revenue.
from you. You don't hold your book up. This is part of the visuals. So don't think you're going to get on TV and be able to hold up your product or your book. They do not like that. This is not a commercial. So remember that. And also you need to have your energy up a lot higher than you normally would think you would. You need to be happy to be there and show it. Because if that segment doesn't have energy, it's gonna bomb. Okay, next. Keep going.
Rockstar joins us with tips on how to go from being invisible to irresistible. We all want that.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Good morning.
So what can we do to change that internal self-talk story playing in our heads that says we are not good enough?
Well, if you think of the internal negative self-talk in your head as a movie, and you're the director, and you get to say cut at any time. And the way to start that is just remember that where you are now is what you have to offer is valuable. And when you have that mindset, I have something called stacking your moments of certainty, where you write down 2 or 3 things that you knew you nailed it. You interviewed for a job, you asked somebody out on a date, they said yes, and put that in your head, and the confidence will go up, and all that negative self-talk goes down.
Pause for a second. A lot going on in that first opening. You have to have that opening so ready to go. I wrote the questions, I submitted the images you're gonna see, and I practiced my answers. The key to opening up any pitch, any presentation, any interview is know what you're going to say when you open up, so you don't have to think about it. I knew I was gonna start talking about the movie of your life, what those negative self-talks are. You also want to lean in to the anchors, and you'll notice when I said, when you do this, the negative self-talk goes down, and your confidence goes up when you stack your moments of certainty. So not only what you're saying, but how you're saying it. We've had people here talking about the importance of your tone of voice. So all of those subtle things are happening in that first 5 seconds or 10 seconds of me being on. All right, we're gonna watch a little bit more.
You know, we've all been to maybe a dinner or a cocktail party where someone is so great at telling stories, right? They can captivate the group that they're with. You say that telling a good story can make you irresistible to others, and you compare it to climbing the ladder. What do you mean by that?
I do. I've created this ladder where you, at the bottom of it, we're invisible, as we just talked about, and then you move up to insignificant, and actually in the dating world, I don't know what's worse, invisible or insignificant.
Right.
Pause for a second there. Okay, so this is an example of a visual, so it's not just a talking head. This is one of the key things in my keynote talk about where do customers see you on this ladder. But for television, we made it much more about dating and your career without getting specific into being for a sales team. But people love to start saying, oh, there's a ladder here. Where am I on this with somebody? And they start intriguing them, and as I keep talking, you can get a sense of what that looks like.
Get to interesting. Maybe you say or do something that pulls people's interest in. And in the dating world, that could be a little bit in the friend zone. And it can also be the friend zone at work.
Pause 1 second. Again, another big soundbite that's gotten me a lot of publicity. Everyone knows what the friend zone is, but when we pitched this to Inc. magazine, they did a whole feature story on, are you in the friend zone at work? And how, if you are, here's 3 signs to find out you are, and here's 3 ways to get out of it. So little sound bites that I'm giving in my answers can then become a whole article that you can then pitch.
Seeing you as a leader or promoting you. So if you tell a great story, you move up that ladder to where you're at the level of intriguing, and people say, oh, tell me more. And that's really when you know you've moved up a rung. And stories allow us to do that. And then, of course, at the very top is irresistible. And that's what stories really do. And if you told a great story, people want to share it.
Yeah.
Pause 1 second. The entire time, I was looked at the anchors. I had no idea when that camera was going to cut back to me or when they were staying on the slide the entire time. You don't look at the slide, you don't look at what's being projected live on TV. You stay connected with those anchors.
So good at, right? There's seemingly naturally talented storytellers. Can you teach that?
The good news
Pause 1
is...
second. When I saw Brene Brown being interviewed by Gayle King on CBS this morning, she has a book out called Dare to Lead. And she was asked a very similar question by Gayle King. They say leaders are naturally born. Do you think that's true? And I thought, I can take that format and say, they say storytellers are naturally born. Is that true, or is it something you can learn? So I studied for 2 hours a 5-minute segment of Brene Brown on CBS this morning. What worked? What kind of questions did they ask that I could reformat and make my own? And that was an example of one.
Telling is in all of our DNA. If you think back to the Stone Age, we sat around campfires telling stories to each other.
Yeah.
So we've seen movies, parents tell their children stories. So when you tell a good story, it makes you magnetic and memorable.
Pause for a second.
Oh,
Alliterations are a great way to give a soundbite. And you'll see there that I said magnetic, pause, and memorable. Confident people are comfortable with silence. And if you are on camera, you think, I have to fill every second or I'm going to lose their attention. But when you say a good story is magnetic and memorable, it lets it land. Okay?
People want that, and when you tell stories, they need to be clear, concise, and compelling.
All right.
All right, so now we're going to practice this so you can walk out of here today with this skill set. So we're going to say it together, just like you would in a normal sentence. What makes a good story is that they need to be clear, concise, and compelling. Okay, everybody? What makes a good story is you need to be clear, concise, and compelling. Now, the secret when you get media coached is you just say that word to yourself as a pause. They need to be clear, concise, and compelling. So it's going to sound like what I just said, okay? Now we're going to say it again, and you're not going to say the word twice, but you're going to say it to yourself, so you give yourself that pause. Good stories, everybody, need to be clear, concise, and compelling. So now, when you're giving any kind of presentation, whether you're on camera or not, and you really want a point to land, and you want people to remember it, especially if it's an alliteration on top of it, take that pause by just repeating the word to yourself. That's a perfect amount of time.
So you've got some teachable things that we can all learn and then become better storytellers. So let's go through 4 of your teachable storytelling skills.
Sure.
Start us off.
The first one is you paint the picture. Almost journalism, which you are all experts at. The who, what, where.
This is the other visual I sent them. And I automatically complimented the hosts by saying, painting a picture. You're all experts. You are all amazing journalists. And this is Journalism 101, the who, what, where, when. Now they're leaning in a little bit more. He just complimented us on his segment. All right, now we're going to fast forward to the very end.
Quick question.
Yes.
You listed all 4 of those items instead of worked up to them so that we could read them before you said them.
Correct.
Why?
Because it allows people to absorb, and they, just like the ladder, I didn't do the ladder one at a time either, because my belief is people like to know where you're taking them. And so I show them, this is where we are now, and we're going to cover all 4 points. If you want to learn all 4 points, I'm happy to talk about that with you later, but I'm now just trying to give you the highlights of that segment without having you watch the whole segment. So if we fast forward, now sometimes you have to be prepared. He went off script at the very end. He did not ask me the question I had sent. He made it about himself, and this is where all of your training comes in. And Cal Fussman told me when he interviews people, and he's interviewed everybody from Gorbachev to Serena Williams to George Clooney, he writes down about 200 questions and then puts them away. And then during the interview live, he says, my brain is like a jukebox. And I will instinctively go, oh, that's J16, and that question drops down. So you'll see here how I had a soundbite ready to go from another talk I gave that wasn't part of the script and how it transferred here.
When I speak publicly,
Yeah.
I used to be really nervous about it.
Yes.
It turns out people want you to do well.
They do.
Right.
When we get butterflies in our
Yeah.
stomach, and I tell people, get the butterflies in your stomach to fly in formation.
Oh,
Get that
That's
nervous
very
energy
good.
out and into the room.
I like that, John.
Pause a second.
Now, what about
That was completely spontaneous. They didn't know that I was going to say that, but I had used that before. But they didn't know. It was spontaneous for them to hear that, but not. That's why when they say, "I like that, John," and they say your name, now in 4 minutes you've gotten that rapport with those on-camera anchors that those people watch every day, going, "She likes that, John. Maybe we should like this guy too."
Can I just real quick?
Yes.
So I've been on that side as an anchor. I just want to tell you the real world situation. We're bored to death. Because we're reading, you saw, let me tell you, who has not been in a newsroom before? Only all of you have, most of you have. So the way it works is it's a cold room. There's 3 cameras that are moving robotically. Okay, so you don't see anyone in this room other than the people you're sitting next to. The camera's moving in and out, and you're sitting there, these people maybe for an hour to 2 hours by themselves, just with the people sitting at the desk. You're bored to death. Someone like John walks in, it's like, all right, recess. Okay? I'm not kidding. So they want to actually, if they can get into it, connect, because that's their time to feel like I'm not in that robotic environment anymore. So they hate being alone. Another second thing, every show, if it's a 2-hour show, local show, every segment's about 2.5 to 2:30 minutes long. This one's a little longer. You get about a 5-minute segment. That costs money to do. By bringing somebody in as a guest, That means they don't have to produce graphics, they don't have to have somebody that's out doing a camera shot. That actually saves them money. They want guests that come in. So it's a cost-saving opportunity to get great guests in. Every one of you has a story that can get you on here. Every one of you. That's the next thing I hope you're gonna share with us, right? Okay, good.
And speaking of robotics, I've done 10 different episodes like this in different stations in different cities, and 90% of them have people behind the cameras. And when I did Fox LA on the west side, they said, all right, you're gonna go sit on that sofa. As soon as the anchors finish their segment behind the desk, they're gonna come sit with you on the sofa in a commercial break. I said, okay. And I'm sitting there waiting, and suddenly these robotic cameras come out on tracks from nowhere. And I had not seen or experienced that. My fight or flight response kicked in big time. I'm like, where are those things? How fast? What? And they're like this close. And 3, 2, 1, John Livesay is here to talk about how to get more confidence, and he just got the crap scared out of him. Yeah. So the next time I did a show, I'm like, I'm ready for you, robots. So you just have to be, there's so many things going on live TV, it's a total adrenaline rush. But you have to be in the moment so much. So we're going to finish the rest of this ending.
I think they can tell their husband's stories better than they can.
Yeah. Or cut you off in the middle of the story. They're not so animated about that.
Is that another book?
That's another book.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a relationship.
My recommendation is do not pretend to be the expert on everything. I am not a relationship expert. And she goes, oh, what should I do if my husband cuts me off and my wife cuts my husband off? Or is that another book? I took that bait. That's another book. Mm-hmm. More credibility. Go ahead.
But I always just say, let the people tell your story. Don't worry about details, because have you ever been in a situation?
Yeah.
Did that happen yesterday? Was it last week with the couples? It doesn't matter. Get to the
Repeat
heart of the
back what the
story.
host says. It doesn't matter. People love that validation.
John Livesay is a keynote speaker, pitch whisperer, and storytelling expert. To learn more about
Pause
him
that
and his
real
new
quick
book.
there. Look how much real estate they gave me. With the website and everything else, you can take a picture of this if you want to know how to get a hold of me. Also, if you take your phone out and text the word pitch to 66866, I'll send you a free sneak peek of the book. So there's all kinds of ways you can do this. Now, when you're talking about Rob Kessler, he had $1 Million Caller launching. And there's a show here in LA called Good Morning La La Land, and it's very much about inspirational things. And I said, you've got a story here, Rob. Your story of origin. Television loves visuals, the before and after. Show the picture of your collar at your wedding and how that inspired you to create $1 Million Collar, which is what I'm wearing, so that it doesn't lay badly. And then your wife became a stunt woman. You're living the Hollywood dream. The two of you move out here from the Midwest to follow your dreams. So they showed a clip of her doing her stunt, a clip of him on his wedding, and they talked about that. It was not a commercial for the shirts. The shirt was just inside of, we moved here, we're living our dream. We believed in ourselves and each other, and here's what inspired our company. That's how you get on television. Create a story that makes it clear and concise.
Who are you pitching to?
You're pitching to the producers. So you need to figure out who those producers are and send them the segment idea already with a headline.
Almost all those producers are on Twitter, by the way.
Yes.
Twitter is the best way to get a hold of them.
He's another expert on television, clearly.
Yeah, that was excellent. I want to just add a few things quickly. You need a message. You need a message. You can't just go on TV with no message. The best way to get on, I found, is with a great publicist. You can try and reach these people. A lot of people do. But when you have a publicist that actually is connected with these people, it'll happen. And then you nailed it on the head. You've got to do media training. Don't just go on there and do it. Because when you do media training, it gives you the ability to be in the driver's seat. If I'm on a TV show and they say, hey, Dr. Bill, that looks awesome. How much does it cost? I'm not going to say how much it costs on TV. That's the last thing that dentists should ever do. Because that's the one thing people will remember, right? I say, you know what, that's a good question. You need to actually come into my office so I can look at you, because everybody's different, and then I can tell you exactly how much it is.
Perfect.
So you need to have these things already in your brain so you're not shocked. You pulled the butterfly thing out, the more you practice with a media trainer, the better you're gonna be. And here's the best part. It doesn't matter what they ask you, don't answer it. Seriously, if you don't want to answer it, just pretend like you didn't hear it. Say, that's interesting, but what I really want you to know is blah, 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 blah. And they don't even know you just screwed them.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's just media training, and the more you do it, it's so much fun for me because it's like Phillips paid me $100,000 to do a satellite media tour. I had to get 3 messages in I did 54 interviews in 4 hours. I had to say these 3 talking points. I'm the only speaker they ever hired that got all 3 in. Why? Because if you have a segment, you know it's 1 minute and 25 seconds, and you only have 2 of your talking points in, and you have 4 seconds left, there's a shot clock, they're gonna get you off the air. But then you say, no, wait, I have the most important point right now. They can't kick you off then. They look like assholes. I got all 3 in every time, and it's all media training. I wasn't born for TV. I practiced.
Yeah.
Practice.
Great. What a
I
great
gotta put money in the
contribution.
meter, I'll be right back.
You know, when I walked in, Big Mike goes, you know, I was speaking, he goes, you're always on TV, you're always got press. That's the buzz you want to create. And imagine if someone goes to your website and they see a clip or they see some logos of shows you've been on, and they're trying to decide between you and another speaker or you and another product that you're selling. It's just another way to give you social proof and get comfortable on camera. No matter what, if there's a show in New York called Cheddar, that you're sitting on the New York Stock Exchange. So all kinds of shows and businesses, if you've got the great content and you start thinking like a producer and make their job easy, you can get on TV too.